privilege, guys, to open up a two-part lesson. Come on! Two-part lesson. And they're going to be pretty much like sermonettes, okay? Because we know we got to get out of here, we got to get packed up and move, so we won't take up too much of your time, but we're going to bring some fire. Amen? Come on. So I'll go first part. I'll preach the first part, Larry will preach the second part, and we'll both have 1 point each, so 2 points total. And the first point, the title of my lesson, is now is the time to go to the mountain.
Come on, Phil.
Larry will come up and preach. It is time to come down from the mountain. So as we're up here on the mountain, what do I think of? What do we think of? Well, I think of all the stuff that was awesomely done in the Bible that happened on a mountain. Right? The mountains are mentioned more than 500 times in the Bible. Many of its famous stories happened on a mountain. And of course, there's symbolism being when you're on top of a mountain, you're closer to God.
Amen.
Some of the most significant mountains in the Bible are Mount Ararat, when Noah's Ark rested here after the flood. Mount Sinai, when Moses went up to receive the 10 Commandments by God. The Mount of Olives, where Jesus prays right before his arrest and his crucifixion. Mount Zion. David captures the area and it becomes the city of David. It's also where Solomon's temple was built. Mount Carmel. This is where the prophet Elijah calls God to light a sacrifice on fire. Proving to the prophets of Baal that he is the one true God. The Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus delivers the Beatitudes. And then last, one of the most significant times on a mountain was the Mount of Transfiguration. Before the disciples' eyes, Peter, James, and John, Jesus is transfigured among them. Just appearing as he will after his resurrection. And next to him are Moses and Elijah. Mountain veterans. Haven't been to the mountain before. And you know, the theme that I kind of want to go with, guys, is, well, I've been to mountains before.
Come on, bro.
I've been to retreats before. And sadly, I've wasted some retreats. Sadly, I've wasted times on top of the mountain.
Oh, boy.
I would get to the top of the mountain, fired up, and you're ready to share my heart, and then get to D group and go, well, yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of sin. Oh, yeah, I mean, I kind of did a little something like this kind of the other day, but, you know, I don't really struggle with that. Thought to myself, well, I didn't really get anything out of the lessons. They're sermonettes, and, you know, my pride, I would say, they're not by the evangelist, so what do they do? It wasn't expertly given. The message wasn't expertly done, so I'm not going to pay attention.
Wow, come on, bro, help us out.
These are times that I wasted on the mountain.
Wow.
And I don't want you guys to waste it.
Come on.
Turn to Luke chapter 9.
Come on, bro.
Come on, Dale.
That's real. Yo.
Luke chapter 9, verse 28. We'll be looking at the passage talking about the transfiguration of Jesus.
Come on, bro.
Verse 28. Luke chapter 9, verse 28. About 8 days after Jesus said this. Well, said what? Well, look at Luke chapter 9, verse 23 to 26. Look a little familiar?
Yeah.
Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take the cross daily, and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and of his holy angels. Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God. Verse 28 again. About 8 days after Jesus said this, he took Peter, John, and James with him and went up onto a mountain to pray. Guys, that's us. We're on this mountain to pray. We're on this mountain to be close to God. Jesus has picked you to be on this mountain.
Come on.
That's why we're here. Verse 29. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. 2 men, Moses and Elijah, appeared in glorious splendor, talking with Jesus. They spoke about his departure, which was about to bring fulfillment at Jerusalem. Peter and his companions were very sleepy. Amen?
Amen.
But when they became fully awake, amen?
Amen.
They saw his glory and the two men standing with him. As the men were leaving Jesus, Peter said to him, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah. He did not know what he was saying. I looked into this. I was like, well, what do you mean he didn't know what he was saying? Like what does he mean? And I think of this whole scene, you know, I was like, it must have been a pretty incredible scene, right? So cool, you know, Jesus is a cool character, cool guy, you know. Yeah. Oh, we're going to go pray on the mountainside. Sounds the same as anything done before, you know. And all of a sudden, Jesus' face changes. His clothes become really bright. You're like, whoa, you know. 2 people show up. I wonder, like, how did they know it was Moses and Elijah?
Yeah, come on.
You know, like, how did they know? Were they wearing, like, name badges and everything? Hi, I'm Moses, you know?
Let's introduce himself.
You know, like, was Moses like super humble? Is that why he could tell he was Moses? Like, you know, like what was it? I don't know. I just thought I'd think about it. But I thought it was interesting, Peter's utterance. Why don't we make shelters for you, Moses, and Elijah? I think it's good for us to be here. And Peter's ignorance was assuming that being on the mountain in company with Elijah, with Moses, and Jesus was any matter better than just being on the mountain with Jesus.
Ooh. Wow, come on.
He thought he needed something more. And in fact, what he saw in those 2 men, he went, you know what, this seems better now. So how about we stay here now?
Come on, bro.
But they were sleeping with Jesus.
Wow.
Come on, bro.
Wow. That's crazy.
You know?
Good point, bro.
I have a firm conviction that listening to a lesson for your quiet time is not a quiet time.
Right.
Wow.
That's true. That's true, bro.
You think you need something else other than Jesus, other than God's Word. I think sometimes I can approach my quiet time like that. Start reading my Bible, like, you know, I just need something else. I need something more.
Come on, help us out.
And there's commentary. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when you feel like you're depending on something else other than God's Word, you're not having a quiet time.
Come on.
Yeah.
Guys, the whole point of this 1-point lesson is quiet times.
Come on.
Evangelists, church leaders, when they go on retreats, the one thing that they talk about is quiet times.
Yeah.
It's not like some super extra biblical knowledge they're getting that we're not really getting. They might get some different type of discipling, but you know what they're talking about? Hey bro, how was your quiet time as you're leading a church?
Come on.
Come on.
How's your quiet time, bro, as you lead the women? Are you close to God to be able to lead the women? Are you close to God to be able to help lead yourself?
Yeah, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
If we don't love spending time with God here on earth, what makes you think you're going to enjoy spending time with God for eternity in heaven?
Come on.
Come on, bro.
If you're struggling spending time with God now, that's all you're going to do in heaven, is spend time with God. If you're not having fun doing that, oh, come on. You better learn how to start having fun now. It's amazing to spend time with God. So I got 5 little key tips here to help you have a good quiet time.
Come on, bro.
Like I said, sometimes when I went up to the mountain, I wasted my time with God.
Come on.
And I found myself, I was like, hey, why do I go up to these retreats and go up to the mountain or whatever, and I tend to have like amazing quiet times? Is it the weather? Is it the altitude? You know? Like how come I just had an amazing quiet time while I was out here? Well, the whole reason why is because, one, I prioritized it.
Yeah.
I made sure it happened. You know, I removed all my other distractions. And I said, well, I guess everyone's got a quiet time, so I guess I need to have one too. And I ended up reading my Bible, and I'm like, oh wow, I got something out of it today. But that was it. I prioritized it. That's number 1.
Come on.
Number 2, pick a time and a place. Turn to Mark chapter 1. Keep your finger there and Luke 9. Mark chapter 1, verse 35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark. That's how early it was. Jesus got up, turned off his alarm, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed.
Yeah.
See, picking a time and a place, Jesus had a time and a place picked out. He was ready to go to his place of solitude, just with him and God.
Come on.
And I know for me, there are times in the past where I just wouldn't do that. There was a time in my life, as a disciple, I went months without having a good quiet time. And yet, to my shame, I felt like I had enough skill, enough talent to make it through my day on my own.
Wow. Come on, bro.
And when anyone would question or ask me, hey, bro, how you doing? I'm doing fine. Like, I love my girlfriend's question. I'm doing fine. Are you doing fine or are you doing great? She even asked me the other day, when's the last time, Dale, when I asked you that question, you said you were happy? How you doing? I'm happy. Oh, man, I don't really say that. But am I happy? Ask yourselves, are you happy?
Come on, bro.
With your time with God? It should be leaving a good feeling in your chest and in your heart, When we all in here, we're disciples, and so think about that best quiet time you've ever had. The best one, man, and this makes you feel so good, so strong afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? You think of that, and you think of that time that you didn't have a quiet time, you fell into sin, it's like, oh man, like, why did I choose that?
Yeah.
Why did I make that decision, that mistake? You must prioritize, you must pick a time and a place.
Yeah.
Number 3, plan.
Yes.
You know what happens when I don't plan to do things? I don't do it. I miss them. If I don't plan to have my quiet time, I don't do it. Even as a campus leader, sometimes I don't plan to have my quiet time. I confess. And I get on the campus and I start struggling. And I go like, oh my gosh. I thought I had this day for me, to myself, and I'm not in control. I'm struggling. Plan your quiet time the night before. To where you're going to go, how you're going to prioritize your day. How'd this retreat go for you, as far as planning your quiet time? We had an early breakfast. Sure. Maybe you could use that excuse, but guess what? It's still an excuse.
Yeah.
Still an excuse. Did you plan your quiet time? Number 4, pray. Pray is pouring your heart out to God. It's praising Him, praying for others, confession, telling God our needs, asking for forgiveness, asking for strength in the face of temptation. Do you hit on those things when you pray in your quiet time? I think if we aren't spending enough time with God in prayer, we're just going to slide back down.
Yeah.
And retreat away from God and not to Him. Number 5, listen. Are you listening or are you doing all the talking?
Talk about it.
In your relationship with God. We listen, of course, by reading God's Word. A new study on habits just came out. And it's contrary to the popular belief that it takes just 21 days to build a habit.
What's this?
The new study shows that on average, it takes 66 days to build a habit.
Talk about it. Yep.
That's 2 months, guys. That's 2 months to build a habit. If you were to look at your quiet times for the past 2 months, would there be a habit of consistency or a habit of excuses?
Ooh, call us out.
How are your quiet times?
Oh boy.
2 months. Were they consistent? Or this habit of excuses? Well, I got something else to do. I'm too busy. I'm too... Jesus just wants you to spend time with Him. I have a little story here. The University of Northern Iowa once offered a general art course that included a most unusual exercise. The teacher brought to class a shopping bag full of lemons and gave a lemon to each class member. The assignment was for the student to keep his lemon with him day and night. You could smell it, you could handle it, you could examine it, whatever you want to do. But then that next class period, without warning, the students were told to put their lemons back into the shopping bag. Then each was asked, find your own lemon. Surprisingly, most did so without difficulty.
Wow.
Because they spent time. If you were the lemon, and the smelling and the handling and examining and time spent, etc., were your quiet times, would God be able to identify you by how close you are to Him? Would He be able to pick you out of the bag? You know, yeah, I know this scrape. I know that little bulge there. I know this limit. I know this daughter. I know this son of mine.
Come on.
Or would He look at it and be totally unfamiliar? This doesn't look familiar to me. This person's not spending time with me.
Come on, Dad.
Come on, bro.
Let's get back to Luke chapter 9. We'll close that here.
Come on, bro.
Come on, Dad.
Come on.
Guys, I just don't want you to waste your time on the mountain. It's so amazing what God can do on a mountaintop. And what God says to us and God works through us. And just don't take it for granted. It's not all about the food. Even though that's good too. Luke chapter 9, verse 34. While He was speaking, a cloud appeared and covered them. And they were afraid as they entered the cloud. A voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son whom I have chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, they found that Jesus was alone. The disciples kept this to themselves and did not tell anyone at that time what they had seen. Guys, what happens on the mountain
Stays on.
stays on the mountain. You know, what was shared in D groups and your D times, it can stay, the sin can stay right here. And you can come back down to the mountain feeling totally refreshed and ready to go. They might not have told anyone, but I'm sure that event changed them. Seeing Jesus' face transfigured, His clothes be bright. But is this retreat going to change you?
Come on.
Again, my prayer this weekend is that this weekend and this retreat, it transfigured you from the inside out. We came to the mountain. We went up the mountain. But now it's time to come down the mountain. I give you Larry Davis.
Come on, Larry. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're feeling transfigured this morning. Amen. It is time to come down from the mountain. Amen.
Come on.
Let's open up our Bibles to Exodus chapter 34.
Old school, bro. Let's go.
Exodus chapter 34, verse 29. Can I get an amen when everybody's there?
Amen.
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 Yeah. Exodus 34, verse 29. Let's pick up here. It says, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, so Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him and spoke to them. Afterwards, all the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all of the commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. It says that after spending intimate time with God on Mount Sinai, Moses comes down, not even knowing that his face is literally glowing, literally radiating, and then he sees the Israelites, and they're literally spellbound. They're literally shocked because they're like, Moses, what happened? Why is your face glowing? It would be like our brother Alex, after coming down from this retreat, and next Sunday's service, Lou Jack sees Alex. He's like, bro, what happened? Your face, you're glowing.
Come on.
Yeah, your light's getting that.
Wow.
And so one of the questions when coming down from the mountain is, who is going to see the glow on your face
Come on, bro.
coming down from the mountain? How is that glow going to show in your Bible talks with your family? How is that going to show when studying the Bible with people and pouring your heart into them? How is that going to show with fundraising for special missions this upcoming term, family? How do you keep this glow in increasing measure?
Come on, Larry.
How do you do that? How do you come down from the mountain and not only have the glow, but keep the glow? And really the answer is really having your heart and your hope fixated on the end goal, which is heaven. It's having your heart focused on heaven. And we gotta get a conviction and understanding of how awesome heaven is. Because if you don't understand how awesome something is, it's going to be really hard to fight and give your all if it doesn't mean that much to you. Come on, man. Let's turn over to 2 Corinthians chapter 12.
Come on, bro.
Come on, ladies.
Come on, bro.
Tell the truth.
Second Corinthians chapter 12. We want to get a glimpse of what heaven is like, according to Paul's account. Let's pick up here. We're going to start at verse 1. Can we get amen when everybody's there?
Amen.
Amen. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 1. I must go on boasting, although there is nothing to be gained. I will go on to visions and revelations from the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up into the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or a part of the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. This is crazy because Paul is saying here, he's saying that heaven is so lit that he shouldn't say a thing about it. It is so awesome, it's like, I can't even begin to describe to you what it's actually like, because it's so awesome. Come on. That's what heaven is. Jesus, when he was hanging on the cross, in Luke 23, he says that heaven is like paradise. It is like a paradise. And we got to remember and place our hope and trust in God and in heaven, because that's where we're going to get the strength to persevere in our Bible talks, who we're studying and who we're reaching out to. Where's your hope at this morning and coming down the mountain? When you know what's ahead and you're close to God, you never lose the glow of God. And you can be the lampstand to your area, to your community. But the opposite is also true. When you lose sight of heaven, and when you are not intimate with God, when you're not spending quality time with God, you lose the glow of God. Where is your hope at this morning, coming down the mountain?
Come on, bro.
So why would a disciple decide to lose the glow? Why would they not want to spend time with God? If God is so awesome and heaven is so awesome, you can't even describe it. Why would somebody want themselves to be dim? Maybe sometimes they don't know that they're dim. You know?
Wow.
But some other reason is that we get caught up on the sacrifice. We get so caught up on the sacrifice of building God's kingdom instead of seeing it as a blessing. We don't see. Sometimes we can get so caught up on circumstances in life that we start to see building God's house as a sacrifice rather than a blessing. And we get tripped up on that. And then we struggle to give our heart because our hope is in the wrong thing. And imagine for a second, imagine if Jesus had that heart coming down from the mountain. This heart of, it's just a sacrifice instead of a blessing. Imagine, if you will, if Jesus said, he's in heaven, standing next to God the Father, and he says, and he's looking down at earth, and he's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to give up being at the right hand, the throne of God, for Matt Magruder. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I don't want to live, I don't want to be born as a human being poor for all of my time on life from a worldly perspective for Shane Fisher.
What?
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I don't feel like being harassed by Satan himself with such intense temptation for a month and a half in a desert with no food for Naomi and Ruth. Imagine that, if this was Jesus' heart. I don't want to take on all the sins of everybody here in this room and be disconnected from my Father that I have known for eternity. Imagine if Jesus had that in his heart. And yet he didn't. Jesus, given that all that he had, he left heaven. He literally left heaven and died for us, for our sins, not because he saw it as a sacrifice, but he saw each and every one of us as a blessing. And that's why he did it. He didn't see us as a sacrifice. He saw us as a blessing. And that's why he was willing to give up really the securities of heaven. We get caught up on the stuff that's here. I can't even imagine being in heaven and then having to give that up. You can't even describe heaven, and he gave it up. That is intense, and that's how much our God loves us.
Wow.
How much more are we going to love Him back?
Come on.
How much more are we going to love Him back?
That's right. Come on, Larry.
It's crazy.
Come on, bro.
You know, sometimes, I want to give an example here. I grew up doing martial arts. And Taekwondo, so it's a Korean martial art. And so you have what they call sparring, right? So you got the mat, you got the gear on, you got the headpiece, you know, pads and everything. And you're out there, you know, you got your opponent right there in front of you. And you're just out there. It's just you and him, you know, or your opponent. And you're just out there. And I remember just growing up, and I remember this guy named Devin. And Devin, so at the time I'm like 12 or 13 years old. I'm like $120, so I'm like 120 pounds. Devin is about 6'2", about 230 pounds.
Wow.
It's almost like David and Goliath. Struggle was real. And I just remember just getting whooped, like just dusted on the mat, kicks, punches. I got kicked in ways I didn't even know was possible. And it was really bad. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you would go off the mat, and then you would sit down, almost dying, trying to figure out what's going on. And it was just really bad because I had to get input. I had to get input from the coach and get the advice that I needed. Because the issue was that I was trying to attack from afar. What I should have been doing was getting in close.
Wow.
And striking in close. But I would have never seen that if I had never went to my coach, my sensei, and go to him and say for him, and then to accept the advice. And then have the faith to trust it, and then go out and actually implement it.
Come on, bro.
When we come down to the mountain, we have to have tentative ears and listen to the person that's in our life, our discipler, and have the faith and trust the advice that's given and put it into action.
Come on, bro.
Otherwise, you're going to get kicked upside your head coming down the mountain.
Come on, yep.
Amen.
You're going to get kicked upside your head and wondering why you are still going through the same struggle. It's not good getting kicked upside your head. Some of us felt kicked upside the head coming up to the retreat.
Come on.
Talk about that, bro.
Some of us felt like we got kicked in the gut coming up here. But amen. We spent intimate time with God. We got open. We had our deep groups. And now it's time to come down from the mountain. It's time to take the advice. And it's time to be the revolution to our surrounding area in the DMV area.
Come on, bro.
How are you going to be the last to your area, guys?
Come on.
How are you going to do it? How are you actually going to do it? And really, just to conclude here, just thinking through just on some highlights from this retreat here, is that, yes, you know, we're on the top of the mountain. It's a way to prioritize and to spend time with God. Yeah. And here's the other thing. Just because we spend time with God does not mean that we're intimate with God.
Woo! Break it down.
We can spend time with God, but not have an intimate relationship. And those are two separate things.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe asking the question of how much are you seeking after God on a scale of 1 to 10, how intimate are you with God on a scale of 1 to 10?
Wow.
But that's just a side note. But just thinking through this retreat, I think one of the things that God has really blessed with the retreat is just for us to come together as a family and spend time with one another and eat some really awesome food. Let me tell you, some really awesome food, and just make some great memories. But here's the thing. When we get down from the mountain, we need to have that same bond. The bond that you feel right now in this room has to be as much, if not more, coming down.
Come on, bro.
So my challenge that I want to give everybody today is whoever that you spent quality time with during this retreat, be partners in the gospel coming down from the mountain.
Amen, bro.
Don't let this time just be for this time. Let it overlap once we get down from the mountain. Amen.
Yeah.
And that's how, guys, that's how we're going to change the DMV. That's how we're going to change our family and our Bible talks, whether it's for special missions. That's how we're going to be the glow, like Moses was. That's how we're going to be the glow and the lampstand to this lost world. And God to be the glory.